Right. How you doing, bro?
Sorry to disappoint, bro. No schnitzel, no German, none of that. Sorry to disappoint.
After this kind of a presentation, what's going on, bro? Jeez.
What's what?
Expecting some beer. I was expecting like some German babe serving you.
I would love that. I would have loved that. I'm still here in Miami. I'm not going to be going to the game, so.
Okay. All right. Sounds
I'll be
good.
waking up Sunday morning and enjoying a little breakfast and watching the game with you guys as well.
Okay. All right. I like it.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me to guess, and I said Cotton left guard, and what's it called? Damn it. Jones, Robert Jones, right guard for this week. Your predictions?
I think Rob Hunt's probably going to come back and play.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Rob Hunt probably comes back and play.
Okay.
I think Connor Williams should play.
If Hunt doesn't, it'll be Jones. If Hunt doesn't,
I would imagine so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Jones will play right guard. I don't think he's played left guard before. Maybe he has. Maybe he hasn't. Maybe they interchange them all. But look, I think I don't think Tehran is probably just yet. He's traveling with them with the team, and Mike McDaniel said they're going to open the window for him. For me, once you get Tehran back, I don't really care who else is on the line, man. It all seems to go a lot more smoothly when he's in the game. It's amazing what a standout left tackle will do for you. And it just kind of helps everybody else from a confidence standpoint, because having that guy there and his experience and what he does, and he's just usually shutting down the best player on an opposing defensive line. But yeah, I am worried about this week with whoever you have. I think Rob Hunt plays because of the fact that you have Frank Clark, you have that those D tackles over there are pretty tough to kind of go against. So we will see when the Dolphins begin practice on Wednesday and how much they really progress through this week. The Dolphins got into Germany, I believe late last night. It seemed pretty dark in the pictures that they posted, but I imagine they would spend most of today, just getting adjusted and maybe checking out the sites of where they're going to be practicing and stuff before getting to it on Wednesday.
Yeah. What other things are you expecting on the injury front to get better?
Yeah, I'm not sure about Brandon Jones. Let me look up the injury report here so I can have it all in front of me. I'm not sure about Brandon Jones. Like I said, I'm not sure about Armstead. I think Connor Williams comes back. He was active last week. Probably could have played if they needed him, but they kept him out. So I would think Connor Williams probably comes back. I think Javon Holland probably comes back. He was in protocol last week. I imagine he made the trip as well. You said something?
Yeah, he's still in it. According to
still in the protocol.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I can imagine him coming out of the protocol. I imagine he traveled with the team. They didn't say that he didn't travel. So he should be kind of on the latter stages of it, kind of working through practice and stuff. Maybe he's ready for Sunday, maybe not. We will see there. Nick Needham came out clean from his first game back, which was good. And, of course, you have Jalen Ramsey back, which is great. So, from the injury front, I think you're okay, and you're still waiting. A-Chain is 1 week after Armstead from the IR standpoint. He looked all right from what I saw from him last week at practice, but we'll see how he progresses later on. And I believe there's one more person. Who was the other person from? Oh, never mind. Ramsey's back. So yeah. Armstead and A-Chain are the two big guys you want coming back, and they should be coming back within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Let's see. When we look at this game, the Denver Broncos, and Pat Mahomes talked about this in the postgame show, that teams are going to look at what the Denver Broncos have been doing to them and kind of stifling their defense a little bit, and that they're going to see more of that. And so your thoughts on that, because Denver kind of has done a number on their defense, on their offense overall, and can Miami replicate some of that stuff?
For me, I think it's because Denver is a division opponent more than anything. You look at the way like the Patriots play the Bills and how the Jets play the Patriots, how the Jets. You look at how Denver plays the Chiefs. You look at how the Commanders play the Eagles. Remember last year, the Commanders gave the Eagles their first loss, and they lost 34-31 last week.
Well, they were winning this past week until they won later. They took over later in the game.
Yeah. So these division opponents, just when you see a team twice in a year, and this was Denver's second time seeing Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, I think that gives you an edge in those kind of matchups. For the Dolphins, they haven't seen the Chiefs in a couple years. And what did they do? They took the Chiefs probably third best player, and that's crazy to think of Tyreek Hill being their third best player. But like I told you after the post game, man, you want to see Tua cook with a bad offense in a frustrating game. Go back and look at that Chiefs Dolphins game that was here at Hard Rock Stadium a couple years ago. Tua was cooking in that game outside of a special teams return and I think some drop passes, plenty of them. Tua was cooking in that game. This is, for me, Big O, this is the real litmus test. We talk about the Bills, we talk about the Eagles, yeah, sure, but they weren't the Super Bowl champions. The Chiefs are. This is the real litmus test for the Miami Dolphins this week going up against Kansas City. We've seen the Dolphins, they get up for these games. They didn't get up so much for the Bills game as they did for the Eagles game. We saw this defense step up really well in that matchup, and the offense just took a little while to get going. I don't think anybody needs any encouragement for this one. Tyreek Hill won't need any encouragement. That's for sure. Excuse me. Tua Tagovailoa won't need any reminders from Tyreek Hill to feed him the football. And those guys on defense, man, Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, one of the guys on the injured report, like we spoke about earlier, should be coming back as well. Javon back. If your defense is close to full strength and you're going up against the best quarterback in the world, it's time to see who you really are as a team. And hopefully we're on the kind of the positive side of it instead of getting the third loss. This is big for the standings too, Big O. Dolphins are second. Chiefs are number one in the AFC. I know the Ravens and the Jaguars have 6-2 records right now, but the Dolphins have a better conference record overall. So the Dolphins have a slight edge, and they're number 2 right now. You beat the Chiefs, you're number 1, and that's really, really helpful come later down the road when we're talking about playoff seeding.
Is there an option? Can Miami put a little extra pressure on Kansas City since their offensive line is a little bit in? I won't say. Let's say they're in transition because of the changes at their offensive line on the offseason. They haven't had the same kind of play from their line, their tackles overall.
You could say so, but look, Mahomes is healthy, 100% healthy. He didn't have I know he tweaked his ankle maybe a little bit earlier this year, but he's healthy again. And we'll see how healthy he is from if he was sick last week and if that continues this week, because that seemed to pretty affect him last week in the game against the Broncos. But Mahomes can run if you have enough pressure on him. He'll gash you for about 17 yards for a run if he needs to. So I am kind of worried about them maybe not applying too much pressure, but staying in their gaps and kind of not, having lanes filled. Because you go pressure Mahomes and he could dump it off to Pacheco or McKinnon, and those guys are beating you, right? The O-line for the Chiefs aren't that great, but they're good enough. The right tackle, Jawan Taylor, seemed to stop his, jumping too early. When he's, when they snapped the ball, we saw that in week 1. It just seemed like he was starting a second earlier than everybody else. Joe Thuney was the reason why, a couple plays got called back. McKinnon had a long touchdown a couple weeks ago, 49 yards, and Thuney, had a bad call on that too. So they could be shaky at times, but the Chiefs have a lot of guys that can beat you.
Don't really they're like Miami. They don't allow a lot of sacks. But, some say that their line isn't performing as well.
That's Mahomes. That's Mahomes getting rid of the ball.
Right.
Mahomes knows when to run, and he knows when to get rid of it. And whenever he's in trouble, Kelsey just knows where the hell to go all the time to kind of bail him out. Pacheco's good for them for a check down. If McKinnon gets loose, he's been kind of kept at bay this season, but if he gets loose, I can see him knocking off a big play too. This is going to be a big game for the linebackers. It's going to be a big game for the D linemen too. Hopefully Jalen Phillips gets after it. And you're hoping that the guys are covered on the back end. But think about this, Big O. It could be the first game we have Holland, Ramsey, and X playing together against the best quarterback in the world. It's not going to go great because it'll be their first game together. I imagine that. I think there's some chemistry that those guys have to build up. One thing that X told me that when him, Byron Jones, and Needham were in the game, they had a great chemistry together, a couple of seasons ago because they all knew how to play with each other. This will be the first time that Ramsey, Needham, Holland, X, Cater will all play together. So those guys will probably take some time to get used to. I wouldn't be, surprised if the Chiefs got a couple, big plays, in the secondary on Sunday because it's Mahomes. Those guys know how to get open, and it's the first time all those guys are playing together. But those 5 in a secondary, I like my chances with those 5 guys. So it's going to take some time, but they'll get it together.
How do you defend Kelce?
Man, you hope his girlfriend's not at the game. That's probably the first way, right?
She's not. Apparently, I think she's starting her tour. So I think she's starting preparations for a tour. So she's
okay.
She's not going to be there.
Yeah, I think the tour's in Europe, so who knows? But I think stopping Kelce is tough because you have to defend him not just when the snap, not just immediately after the snap is called. You have to do it after the scramble play. That's probably the hardest part of defending Kelce is because when you're a defender, you naturally kind of feel like, all right, I got Kelce locked up here. Where's the rest of the play going? You might take a look back and Kelce's already going to an empty spot in the field where his quarterback can find him. That's probably where Kelce hurts you the most because he always kind of finds an empty spot in the defense, especially if they're playing zone, and he goes and he sits there and he waits for Mahomes to throw them the ball. And it doesn't matter where Mahomes is on the field. He'll do the side, the cross body, passes across across his body that every quarterback in the league should not be doing. You teach quarterbacks not to do cross body passes, and Mahomes is the only guy that can do it because of his arm. So I think Jerome Baker is probably going to have to stick Travis Kelce in this one. I think Xavier Howard is going to have to be healthy enough to stick Travis Kelce in this one. I think Javon Holland is going to have to, get him on sometimes if he's healthy too. I don't want Kid.
I think a bracket of him, whoever plays the slot, obviously is going to have to cover him, whether it's a linebacker or a corner, and then Holland's going to have to get the deep part of it. And then if X is back, then this is why you did this. Now you leave X and Ramsey alone, and you now can focus on Kelce. What will not happen, no one's following Kelce around. They're not going to put Ramsey on Kelce. They're not going to put X on Kelce.
That's because Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator.
Yes. So, because I've warned people about this already a few weeks back when that came up, and I was told in the building that that's not going to happen. They're going to stay with their guys the way they are. That's not the way he does things. And from what I'm also told, he doesn't trust. If he has one guy follow around, then he's not trusting what everybody else has to do behind that, because it complicates things. If you have somebody following somebody and shadowing them, it just the zone of it after that becomes a mess. And if you don't know your assignment, you're going to be blowing assignments. And against Mahomes, oh my God, it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
He's gonna,
of course. Zone defense is hard to play against Mahomes because it's areas in the field that you find, right? Like Rashee Rice could probably have a good game in this one. Valdez Scanlon could probably break off a long gain, because he just finds an empty area. This one's on the D line. They got to get home if they're going to get home. And that's it. You have to see what the game plan is. If they're going to just, hold their gaps, or if they're going to try to go get after the quarterback and make him run around a little bit. You don't want your people in the secondary kind of running around for extended plays because, after 3 or 4 seconds of defending, you kind of the trajectory goes down. Yeah. You're failing after that point. It's lucky to have a stop there. Not that it's lucky, but you're not in the first 4 seconds of defending a play. It's probably when you have the most success as defense, not as the play drags on, and especially with that quarterback. So I'm interested to see how the zone does. I want to see how – I have to look up how Vic Fangio's defenses did against Mahomes and Denver. It's probably why he's out of a job, so –
No. His problem was the same thing that Joe Philbin and Brian Flores had. He couldn't build a staff.
No offense, yeah.
that was his problem. He couldn't build a staff. That was the end of his reign. He's a defensive coordinator, and there's nothing wrong. There's no shame whatsoever in that. Not everybody can be a head coach. You know, the test for McDaniel was getting Fangio, because we all knew he knew offense, and he did build one hell of an offensive staff. You know, I thought the Bevel addition was awesome, and Frank Smith. But when he got Fangio, he did what Fangio could not do, or Flo, or Joe Philbin. You know, they might all be three different human beings, but they all had the same problem. They couldn't build a staff. And head coaches have to build and rebuild staffs over and over again. If you can't do that, you can never be a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, for me, it's always very interesting case studies building coaching staffs, because as coaches, you have to be very you have to have relationships in the league. Sometimes you're growing, you're in a system. You only know the coaches that you know. You know, coaches, position coaches probably below you, but guys that you know well enough or are capable enough to become offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. That's tough. You never want to get into a situation where Flores hired away half of the Patriots staff when he got hired here, because that didn't do great for Bill Belichick. Nick Saban once said, like, all right, this is my team. These are my coaches. Why are you taking my coaches? If you're going to go get another team, go get your own coaches. It's hard to it's hard to have relationships. If you're not doing like coaching workshops and things like this, where you're really trying your best to interact and meet people and not rely on, agents or mutual acquaintances to get to know each other.
Let me add a little sauce to the equation here. I understood Philbin and Flo, why they failed. I don't understand why Fangio failed, and I'll explain. Philbin was in the same place his entire life. So he only knew those coaches. And when he left, McCarthy said, "You're not taking any of my coaches." Yeah. When Flo was only in one place his entire time. And when he left, Belichick let him take a couple of coaches, but those coaches obviously weren't important to him because he replaced them, and kept going. Fangio's different than those guys. Fangio has bounced around the league, which I tell people all the time that listen to this show, that's actually a great strength. The guy that's been fired and hired and fired and hired and fired and hired because everybody knows it wasn't his fault. That's why he's consistently, this assistant coach is getting hired, because wherever he wasn't really the problem. He was doing his job. But while he was going from place to place, he got to know different coaches and different systems and all that stuff. And so by the time he becomes a head coach, he's bounced around the league and knows so many people that's how he builds a Rolodex. With Flo and Philbin, I understood those guys never built a Rolodex because they were stuck in the same place. Fangio, that was kind of odd, because the strength actually for coaches like that are the ones. Look at McDaniel. He's bounced around his 7-8 teams before he got here, and he's done a pretty good job of building, a staff. And that's because he's gotten to know an array of coaches along the way.
There's another thing to consider here, Big O. Flo's not going to go hire a hot shot offensive coordinator that can take his job if they fire him.
Well, that's his ego.
You know what I mean? No. It's not ego. It's keeping your job. It's keeping your job. You don't want to be fired.
No, but this guy has Bevel and Fangio, two guys that have way more experience than him.
I understand. I understand where you're coming from.
Has allowed him to succeed, where Flo didn't want leaders on his team and didn't want older coaches on his team. Brother, he didn't bring in the offensive coordinator.
Jim Caldwell.
No. Caldwell left. It was before the guy that played with him for 1 year. The Fitzpatrick's guy.
Chan Bailey.
Yeah,
Chan Gailey, excuse me.
No, dude, that's Chris Greer's connection from when Gailey was here with Wanstead, dude.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think maybe Flo is not the right one for that, but I would see in a scenario where maybe Flo's not the right example for us to be talking about. This is what I meant. But what I'm trying to say is it's hard for first-year coaches to find offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators, because you don't want to hire the guy that's going to replace you when you get fired. You know what I mean? It's kind of a part of job security too. So I could see why Flo would, Pep Hamilton was out there. Some other guys were out there. And then you look at Mike McDaniel in a situation here where Vic Fangio probably has no aspirations to be a head coach again. That's something to play into the picture too. Like Chan Gailey, that's fine, and Mike McDaniel will let Bevel go. You know what I mean? But that's a situation that you have there.
He brought a guy in that has more experience than him. He brought a guy in that has coached Hall of Fame quarterbacks, dude.
Yeah, and even at that point, Pat Bevel probably doesn't want to be a head coach. He probably just knows he's a glorified assistant. You have no idea what these coaches are, motivations are. I don't know Pat Bevel well enough to know if he wants to be a head coach.
It's Darren Bevel.
Darren Bevel, excuse me.
And he still does want to be a head coach. I know that for a fact.
All right. Well, yeah. This is the offense. This is the year for him to go test the market. That's for sure.
Yeah. If he continues with the success, then I think last year the interest he had was not sexy enough for him to leave because they didn't have a quarterback. And I think that's, he's smart that if he's going to leave a quarterback, he better go to a quarterback, because if he doesn't go to another quarterback, he's going to end up failing, unfortunately, because you can't manufacture quarterbacks. Either he's good or he's not. One of the two, but you're not just going to manufacture one out of, thin air, overall. So this matchup, I actually, in a weird way, feel better about the Dolphins after the Eagles, after watching the film and the mistakes that the referees also made. On top of that, it was worse than I even thought it was. I actually think now, with the return of Ramsey, I think this defense is headed for much better days now. Once you get X and Holland back, I think Fangio becomes a better defensive coordinator now, because he gets to play with the islands in the sun, which we're talking about X and Holland and
Ramsey and Holland. Yeah, I agree. Look, you saw from the chart, right? The throwing chart, pass chart, excuse me. Mac Jones and the whole left side of the field was not being thrown to because Jalen Ramsey's over there. And then wait till Xavier Howard's back. You got to throw to one side of the field. And Xavier Howard, every time he gets tested, he kind of comes up with interceptions. We remember seeing him, with leading the league in interceptions a couple years ago. So that's the dream. That's what you were hoping for when you signed Byron Jones and with Xavier Howard. You know what I'm saying? That's why the Dolphins and Chris Greer, that's why they've been adamant about having 2-star corners, because this is a passing league. You have to defend the offenses. They're going to have to defend the Bengals. They're going to have to defend Stephon Diggs. They're going to have to defend whoever comes out of the NFC if they reach the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? You're going to have to defend Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley if you meet Jacksonville in the playoffs, stuff like that. So it's a great system, and Jalen Ramsey probably has the most experience out of it behind Bradley Chubb or ahead of Bradley Chubb, excuse me. I want to see more D-line pressure. I think Jalen Phillips is a real key here. Because he kind of get after the.
Kudos to Bradley Chubb. Let's skip. We
stepped up the last couple of weeks. He has.
We were hammering him, which he deserved the first few weeks of the season. Last 3 weeks, Bradley Chubb has played much better football. So let's give credit when credit is due. Bradley Chubb deserves some love.
Yeah, I think Phillips coming back has something to do with that too. Chubb is not getting kind of one-on-one out there. Wilkins had a sack in the game as well too. You're hoping for a lot more from him as well. Sealer is always kind of doing really great.
Sure you have that beer before you came on, because you're hiccuping there a little bit there.
No, I'm having some water here. I'll probably have it after. We'll see. It's 11 a.m. right now, right? But look, the D-line, for me, the D-line it's where it is on the defense. They got to get pressure and let those guys cover. And I think they'll be okay, man. This is going to be a huge matchup, Big O. This is the litmus test. This is the actual defending Super Bowl champions. It's not the Bills. It's not the Eagles. All right? Those two teams didn't go as far in the playoffs as the Chiefs did. This is the real litmus test, and we'll see what team shows up on Sunday, man. Hopefully, I don't think the Chiefs left yet for Germany, so the Dolphins have like a day up on them. I think the Chiefs might be leaving today if they're not. But hopefully the Dolphins make the best use of their remember last year they went to California for 2 weeks and they laid 2 eggs. So hopefully this doesn't happen again in Germany. Defenses will show up. Offense needs to hum. Tyreek Hill is going to definitely be leading the way for sure. And we'll see what team shows up on Sunday, man.
All right, tough guy. What happens with Farmer Greer? Does he unearth a trade by 4 o'clock today?
Ooh, be tough to do if he's traveling. I imagine he probably stayed back.
Dude, aren't you on the phone on planes nowadays? Come on.
You are. Voice messages, this and that. I could see it.
Don't you watch what's the name of that the girl with the big chin that she's Emirates? You can stay connected while you're flying, but not all the time. What's her name? She's doing all those.
Oh, yes. I know.
Whatever.
Penelope Cruz? No.
I forgot her name, but whatever. So there you see, you can stay in contact. By the way, fly.
Penelope Cruz. Penelope Cruz.
Penelope Cruz. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. That's the girl. And by the way, I've never flown Emirates. I'm dying to fly Emirates.
Yeah, like me too.
Me too. Like it's like an arm and a leg to fly it because it looks like really nice.
When I'm the Big O Show segments on YouTube, I often watch like travel segments and people doing other things like that. So I do want to catch an Emirates flight for sure. What were you saying? You said something about Father Greer. Okay, yes.
Greer.
I think they could use a safety. I think if you can get an actual center, it'd be great, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm always open for a running back. I'm always open for a tight end. I don't know. I think for me, in some regard, I think the Dolphins might think that getting Ramsey back is kind of like winning a trade. You know, you're finding the fruit of your trade happening. But I would go get something else on defense. I would go get a linebacker or a safety if I was them. D-line, I'm okay, I think. O-line would be great to have somebody, but who do you have coming in and who can learn Mike's blocking schemes that quickly to get acclimated? So I think the trade deadline is going to be kind of quiet. Knock on wood, it is kind of early today.
Well, we've already had a couple trades here in the last 24 hours, actually.
Leonard Williams was a big trade. He was probably the big name, not as big as some other names that we see, like McCaffrey last year or the year before that. I don't think anybody big name is going to go. I don't know if Devontae Adams is going to go. I don't think Derrick Henry is going to go anywhere. And you're hoping those guys go in the NFC and not stay in the AFC for sure if you're a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, Devontae Adams, boy, that last night, poor guy, bro. He's just having a nightmare of a season. And Garoppolo, Jesus, dude. Oh, man, that was ugly.
Yeah, man. Josh McDaniels needs to be fired. Bad guy. Bad coaching job.
He will be. The only thing is does Davis want to pay the rest of his salary because they're so cheap? That, it's kind of like the San Diego, the Chargers thing. They probably would have fired Staley last year, but Spanos is so cheap. They probably hung on for a year.
Chargers money is different from Raiders money. I mean, the Vegas money is probably a lot more now. It's not Oakland money no more.
I know, but it's still a family-owned business that they're not.
They sell tickets out left and right.
Still kind of carry themselves in a cheap fashion. Is my point, But whatever.
Well, the cheap thing for the Raiders to do is to trade away Devontae Adams. He's got the second highest contract behind Tyreek. So we'll see if they find a buyer there. Then you can worry about. Then they'll have some money for the coach.
hard to take in a salary like that at this point in the season. That's really tough. All right, what do you got going on in the USA Today, my friend?
Yeah, for sure. I wrote about Messi last night winning the Ballon d'Or.
El Balón de Oro.
Say it with okay. Ballon de Oro.
Ballon.
I gotta. You see, if I would have went overseas to Europe, I would have went to France. I wouldn't have gone to Germany.
Say it with me.
Ballon de
Oro.
Got it. Okay. Listen, man, I do not have a soccer background at all. All this messy stuff going on here in South Florida has been a really great learning experience for me. I'm learning French, learning Spanish. You know what I mean? I'm covering the greatest soccer player in the world sometimes. So I have Messi going on. It's a Football podcast is going on as well, too. We'll have an episode out tomorrow after the trade deadline. And me and my co-host, Tyler Dragon, we will debate Dolphins Chiefs. And you're going to see him kind of go after me and my Dolphins pick because I'm picking the Dolphins this week. I'm always picking the Dolphins each and every week for the rest of the season now. And we'll see how it goes, man. Big O, I'll see you probably Thursday or Friday.
Yes, sir. You got it, my friend. You be good. We'll talk down the line.
Too. Have a good one.
Thank you. And of course, I am an expert at Baptist Health. Anything that has to do with the pineapple, we know why, because our family visits the pineapple all the time. My wife just left Baptist Health down there on Kendall Drive and 89th, and they were absolutely fantastic. And, you know, the ulcer is fine, and she's even working today. She is just absolutely amazing. By the way, the staff at Baptist Health Orthopedic Care is comprised of highly specialized, board-certified, and fellowship-trained orthopedic physicians, supported by advanced practice providers and athletic trainers, all of whom play a vital role in the patient's experience. And we experienced it the last couple of days, and they were just absolutely fantastic, man. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care has locations from Monroe County all the way up to Palm Beach County, Boynton Beach, Bethesda, East and West, down to Marathon Key on 3301 Overseas Highway. We've got another one, by the way, Mariners Hospital in Tavernier Key, 91500 Overseas Highway. Got them in Homestead, West Kendall, Boca Regional, 800 Meadows Road. Got the new one at the Hard Rock Stadium. It's open to the public. BaptistHealth.net/ortho.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.